Hello, everyone. And thought I'd knock out a couple of more chapters today, and then I'll probably do some without you guys. But yeah, I'm hoping that I'll get this entire book uploaded soon. It's just going to take some more time. It's October 7th. It's a beautiful day, and we're gonna do a little recording here, and it's gonna be great. So let's start with where we left off last time with chapter 27. And I'm gonna keep going, and I'll read a little bit, and then um, and then I'll come back to you. So thanks for being here, and enjoy the read. So here it is. Let me start the let me start the recording part. Note number 27. Make a change by being a change. In my first evaluation at Cypress Creek Christian Church, my senior pastor wrote, "As you grow into your new position, always keep in mind that your presence reminds people of the change." I marveled at the profoundness of this concept. Just walking into the room was a change. When I started rehearsal, before I moved one chair or picked up one new anthem, I made a change by showing up. Even if I mimicked everything that the previous director does, I created a change. I didn't like to have casual conversations during business meetings. I printed rehearsal orders with times. I told jokes. I let anyone in my choir, anyone. In this and so many more ways, I was different. I created change in other ways too. I knew a little about technology and handiwork. I spoke well and listened terribly. I worked hard at other non musical tasks around the church. Then something else happened. New people started coming. Some came back. Some talked about how they liked rehearsals. They're fun, they say, and yet hard work. Some told me how they didn't know if the church would go on when the former director left. They told me they didn't think I would be able to fill the role. Then the flood came. In 2017, our church took on so much water that only one room in the entire campus was spared. Floors were gutted, toys, chairs, Bibles, hymnals, walls, electrical, and everything was mucked out and removed. Over the course of 3 years, our choir continued, first in another church, then in a restored chapel, and then in a new choir room in another building. We endured changes and weathered each crisis. Now, with our last building finished, we have all changed. We got used to the smaller worship space. We changed offices. We restarted our craft show. We moved bells and rehearsed in another room. We adapted. These past years caused the church to grow, and me as well. Everything that was handed to me, the rehearsal rooms, the worship space, even the carpet, are gone, and we had to reinvent ourselves. Two of us emptied closets full of 40 years of junk. Let me try that again. These past years caused the church to grow and me as well. Everything that was handed to me, the rehearsal rooms, the worship space, even the carpet, are gone, and we had to reinvent ourselves. Two of us emptied closets full of 40 years of junk. We set aside work days where everything was moved to other buildings. Movers took our entire choir library, hundreds of boxes, down flights of stairs and into a new space that had been carefully measured to fit. Instead of restoring things the way they were, we asked, how can we make this better? We added new technologies. We repurposed old closet space, paid off debts, strengthened our financial standing, and worshiped closer together. How can we act as the change? One, we acknowledge that change has occurred. What kind of changes are happening? It could be age related, getting a new pet, moving, or a change in relationships. What kind of stress has occurred because of this? Two, we act kindly and gently to the change. Can we still find time to exercise, eat right, and talk with others about our worries and anticipations of the future? Do we remain kind to ourselves? 3, we don't play the victim. Each of us has friends who support us by standing in our corner. Though empathy is important, we must acknowledge our own path. What part did we play in this change? Though our commiserating friends are more fun to talk to, our rational thinking friends can provide perspective and solutions that we need. 4, we aim for a new perspective. Review the change as it happens. How have things improved? Is there something good that came out of this change? Though it may be difficult to go through, is life better? If not, what set this into motion? When I first moved to Spring, the change was instant. I sold my home, and the house I was trying to buy fell through. I worked, I prayed, and I went to the gym. I spoke with friends and spiritual advisors who helped me see things clearly, gave good advice, and reminded me that I would love this new way of life. Finally, I looked at the bigger picture. A nicer job, less time alone, and better musical opportunities were within reach. Everything changed. As a result, my perspective changed too. Okay, we got to go back and edit that little part out where Simon decided to shake and his collar did its thing. Let's see if I can find it now. It's empty closet full of 40 years of junk. These past years, handed to me the rehearsal rooms, the worship space, even these past years caused the church to grow and me. I think that's it. These past years. Yep, that's it. I'll just delete that. All right, now we can go on to the next chapter. All right, this is note number 28. Let me put a marker on my file here. Note number 28. And again, hello to everybody. If you're just joining us, that we're reading Singing in the Moment. I'm just going to do a couple of chapters today, and then because I have some other stuff to do this morning. But I'm glad you're all here, and enjoy the read. This is chapter number 28. Okay, now I'm going to record. Here's chapter 28. Note number 28. DIY just for FUN. The car repair cost me about $500. In January 2014, I found myself underneath a car changing out an alternator. I had only changed an alternator once and never on a foreign car. With space heaters on in a well-lit garage, I laid first underneath, then above the engine. By now, I had already begun looking over the tops of my glasses because I can't see anything close up anymore. Hold the light over here, I heard myself say, sounding more and more like my dad each time. How difficult can this be? Undo a few bolts, exchange the alternator, close the bolts, finish. Well, I found out. I had to take out the battery, take out the air filter, take out the wheel because the alternator is on the side of the engine, and in order to get to that last bolt, one must remove the driver's side front wheel. I cursed at the thing. Why did I agree to do this again? It's a mitzvah, I told myself, a good deed. Finally, all buttoned up, the car ran again perfectly. We charged the battery one more time, and vroom, off the car went. It was a success, and I was proud at the work I had done. 2 weeks later, the battery died. Disgusted, my regular mechanic told me it was the alternator. Apparently, I had not installed the alternator correctly, so 2 weeks later, I bought a new alternator. Sometimes it's best to let an expert handle a job, but sometimes it's fun to DIY it too. Experts do it right the first time, but DIY gives us a chance to grow. After all, Don't we learn best by failing? Once, when out of work, I was hired by a friend to help fix houses to Once, when out of work, I was hired by a friend to help fix houses to rent. I had no idea what I was doing and had a great time the entire way. None of us was in construction as a first job, so oh man, that's Freckles. We give it 5 seconds. Once, when out of work, I was hired by a friend to help fix houses to rent. I had no idea what I was doing and had a great time the entire way. None of us was in construction as a first job, so a lot of my newbie errors were overlooked or tolerated. Doing these repairs on houses gave me the confidence to do my own home projects, running new pipe, adding electrical work, painting, adding sinks and tiles, installing bathtubs, and covering walls in sheetrock. I learned a lot, enjoyed it, and it kept me from sitting in the house. I can change car air filters, add low voltage lighting inside and out, and even build a fence or two. I love working with my hands because there is a tangible change in the state of things. More than that, it reminds me of holding the light from my father as a child, and it makes me feel connected to his memory. But some things are best left to the professionals. When a tree in the backyard fell during a spring storm, I called a professional. When my car started to overheat, I didn't try to replace the heater hoses myself because they required special tools and special parts. Instead, I paid for the professional. Though often I will try to do the work myself if I can, some things I still need a professional to do. Sometimes being of service to others doesn't mean fixing it, it means giving someone else a chance to earn money. Today, there are businesses that will literally help with anything. Need to run to the store? There's a business for that. Need a ride? There's an app. Need a new car? There's a business that will negotiate one for you online. But when I go outside in the mornings with the dogs and I look at my air conditioning compressor still humming away after I fix the old fan motor, I feel a sense of accomplishment and pride. The guy at the HVAC repair place could have done it much faster, but I smile because I did it myself. The number of benefits of DIY projects are amazing, but here are some. One, it saves money. I can't even begin to fathom the amount of money I've saved from doing some of my own repair. The air conditioner repairs alone probably cost about $1,500. Replacing a car cabin air filter would have been about $80. New built in shelving in the front room could have easily run me $1,000. Two, it boosts confidence. When I installed outdoor party lights across my backyard, little did I know that I would reuse those same skills over and over in installing lights in my attic, plugs on the outside of the house, ballasts at the church, and lighting in my shelves. Though I still feel I am terrible at fishing wires, my accuracy and comfortability with this has improved dramatically. Three, it reduces stress. The first moments of a new DIY project were so agonizing. As I brought the tools out of the garage, I thought to myself, I'll never get this done. I think that until I start the very first mound of dirt. Once, let me do that again. The first moments of a new DIY project were so agonizing. As I brought the tools out of the garage, I thought to myself, I'll never get this done. I think that until starting the very first mound of dirt. Once I start, I relish in the work, joyful at the opportunity to be outside for a long period of time. At the end of the day, I have something to show for my trouble. I don't think about work or worship. That's the dryer or washer. It's the washing machine. Once I start, I relish in the work, joyful at the opportunity to be outside for a long period of time. At the end of the day, I have something to show for my trouble. I don't think about work or worship, just digging or cementing or leveling posts. Four, It's great exercise. Though some projects are tougher than others, most require some strength and endurance. If I don't have it, I take a few more breaks. But by then, my mind focuses completely on the work at hand, just like it does in a strenuous workout. 5, it gives a sense of pride. When people come to my house, the first thing they notice are all the antiques on the walls and the lovely built in bookcase. We made that, I get to say. I get to tell them how we cut the wood, screwed it into the frame of the house, and fitted the bookcase exactly into the wall. I show off the fountains that I built, and I explain how I used a diamond head hole saw where I bought the pump, and how I looked for weeks for just the right container to go with the ceramic bowl. If it seems too dangerous, I hire the professionals. I don't climb up into the rafters to change out stage lights, cut limbs off trees with chainsaws, or rewire my home circuit panel. But for home projects, I'm all in, except for changing alternators. I'm never doing that again. Okay, now we got to fix the little problems here. There's one of them. I think it starts here. Let's see what I got. The first moments of a new DIY project. Does that seem right? Once I start, nope. Were so agonizing. As I brought the tools out of the garage, I think this is it. Myself, I'll never get this done. I think that until starting the very first mound of dirt. Once I start, I relish in the work, joyful at the opportunity to be outside for a long period of time. At the end of the day, I have something to show for my trouble. I don't think about work or worship. That's the that was funny. All right, let me just delete that a little bit there. And all right, now the other one. Actually, there's two more. One is back here. The first moments of a new. Okay, I think that's it. This might be it right here. The first moments of a new. There it is. Oops. There. And then there was one early on that I had to do. As a first job. So, oh man. None of us was in. I think that's it. Is this it? Once, when out of work. Maybe it's here. None of us was in construction as a first job. So, oh man. Let me start here. Once, when out. Delete that. And I think there's another quickie right here somewhere. That doesn't look good. Do a few bolts, exchange the alternator, close the bolts, finish. Well, I found out. I had to take out the battery, take out the air filter, take out the wheel because the alternator is on the side of the engine, and in order to get to that last bolt, by the way, it was a Mitsubishi, and it was just awful. It's a mitzvah, I told myself, a good deed. Finally, all buttoned up, the car ran again perfectly. I think that's it. Charged the back. And we got this over here. The car repair cost me. Yeah, that's it. Okay. All right. That one was a very interesting time because, yeah, it was middle of January. It was below freezing outside. And yeah, I unbolted a lot of bolts and eventually repaired it. I thought I did so good until it broke 2 weeks later. And then had to do it again. Oh, well, you live and you learn on all these little things, right? So, all right. So let me put in another little tab here so that I know that we're in note number 29. And we're going to go to the next one. Okay, I don't have any more dryers to go off or washing machines. They're all off for the moment. I'm still washing blankets right now. All right, so we'll do one more chapter, and then that's it for this morning. Okay, so here's one more chapter, and I will never change an alternator again. All right, here we go. Note number 29. Pitch in. It's always worth it. Watching one of those home rehab shows, I saw something that absolutely frustrates me. Sod was placed in the front of the wrong house, and as the protagonist team of house flippers came onto the scene, they questioned the foreman about it. The foreman, not one of the main characters, folded his hands, proclaimed they sent it to the wrong house. They'll have it next week, and declared he was leaving the site. How much of this is scripted, I thought. It can be frustrating when people say, I can't, and then give up. How often do our attitudes like this impact our actions? 1. Is it I can't or I won't? Sometimes we get trapped into believing our own ability is less than it is. Marianne Williamson says our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. Sometimes we say, I can't, instead of I don't want to. 2, is it someone else's responsibility? Sometimes we're faced with the possibility that a job is not in our purview. We always must be careful not to take it from someone else. Let me try that again. 2, is it someone else's responsibility? Sometimes we're faced with the possibility that a job is not in our purview. We always must be careful not to take from someone else their job, whether we could do it better or not. We must allow others to do their part while also being helpful if needed. 3, do I need more confidence? Can't comes from a lack of confidence sometimes. Is there a similar task that we have done that could prepare us for this one? Are there some tasks that we can accomplish? What ramifications will happen if we fail? 4. Sometimes it just can't be done. In the above reality TV show, the sod was delivered and installed at another house. It can't be uninstalled. In that case, it required starting over. My choir hosts a contest for non varsity, non competitive choirs every spring. I've gotten to know some of the directors since they come to our contest year after year. This particular year, one of the usual schools had a new director. He was kind and soft spoken, and his students seemed to genuinely like him. At 7 a.m., the day before the contest, I received a phone call from the new director telling me that he was running a little late, but would be there ready to perform with his choir soon. As I listened to the voicemail, a horrible realization came to me that this man was bringing his students now, today, a day early. He had already procured a bus, collected permission slips, corralled his students onto that bus, and was driving to my church to do this contest in front of judges. Except that this was Thursday. The contest was on Friday. I had that sick feeling of knowing that this man's day was about to become a disaster when I called him back to tell him. Then the thought crossed my mind. Why not make it today, too? I raced home, grabbed a suit and tie and some nice shoes, and drove quickly to the church, calling him back along the way. No problem. Take your time, I said. As I reached the church, I quickly brought my suit in the office and began arranging the chairs, moving the piano, bringing out the recording equipment, and turning on the lights. I quickly changed out of my casual morning clothes into my suit and tie and began calling people close by who could judge the contest. I found the church secretary, and since she had a degree in vocal music, deputized her as a judge. The students came in. I handled the damn it. I found the church secretary, and since she had a degree in vocal music, deputized her as a judge. The students came in. I handled the recording equipment, judged, and sent them home with comments and a good recording of their performance. Though his choir wasn't eligible for the best in class competition, we made it work for him as best we could with a couple hours' notice. Why did I go through so much trouble to accommodate his error? I could have explained to the director that he had the wrong date, to come back tomorrow, but I had walked in his shoes like his. Darn it, I did it again. Why did I go through so much trouble to accommodate his error? I could have explained to the director that he had the wrong date, to come back tomorrow, but I had walked in shoes like his. I knew how exhausting it is to get students out of class, to get a bus and driver, to make a 2-hour trek across the city, arrange chaperones, hire an accompanist, teach the music, and finally direct the choir without any of them misbehaving. When I told him that he had gotten the day wrong, I could hear the beginnings of despair as a weak okay sounded in my phone headset. I said, "Don't worry about it. We'll fix it." I couldn't imagine telling this man after all that he had to turn around. There are times when it's important to say no, but sometimes it's equally important to say yes. It wasn't that difficult to move a bunch of chairs, and with a little help, I had judges' tables and a recording space ready in no time. So why not? If it's in my power, why not allow this choir to receive comments and ratings? There was no reason to deny his students the experience of the competition. It could be argued that it wasn't right, that he needed to come on the correct day. This person's choir competed in a special session with different judges on an alternate day with no possibility of receiving best in class. When weighing the next right thing, it meant adding a bit of work to accommodate someone else's mistake. Maybe because I had spent time teaching school and bringing kids to contests, that I knew the Herculean effort he had taken and wasn't about to let him go home empty handed. I pitched in and helped. All right, let me fix those errors real fast. Oh, hadn't thought about that experience in years, in fact. We don't host that competition anymore. We used to, and after the pandemic, we kind of quit doing it. A lot of schools weren't traveling much anymore, and so we quit doing that contest. But wow, that was just a wild experience. All right, let me look at this real fast. Why did I go through so much trouble? Make sure this is the right one. Why did I go? Yep, this is it. So this is the delete there, and then I got another one right here. I found the church secretary. Okay, so just FYI, the way I do this is that if I leave a little silence, I can easily find the silence and then go, aha, there it is, and I know that there's an error around there somewhere. I handled the I found the church secretary. Let me see if I found the church secretary. I found the church secretary. There she is. Okay. So we just delete to there. There, done. Okay. And Control B and note number 30. Oh my gosh, that was such. I mean, I wasn't even. I was in gym clothes, and the phone rings. I didn't answer it, and then I listened to the message, and the guy was like, "We'll be there soon." And I thought, "Oh my gosh, what are we going to do?" And I ran home. I didn't even put the clothes on. I just grabbed them, grabbed a pair of shoes, ran as fast as I could to the over to the forum. We have all these flexible chairs, and so I had to turn everything around because to make choir risers, the area where the audience usually sits became the choir risers, and in order to do that, oh my gosh, so we had to just turn everything completely around, and I the custodian wasn't even in yet, so I just moved all those chairs and turn on the lights and set up all these tables and yeah. By the time they got there, it looked like it had always been there. It's just funny, I mean, don't worry about the man behind the curtain type of thing. So it was really quite an interesting experience. Okay, well, I'll do one more. We've got a few more minutes, and then we'll do. So this will be note number 30. Note number 30. Understand your inner saboteur. The first two figures of Richard Strauss's Don Juan are hauntingly difficult. They are also the beginning of a roller coaster for conductors. It begins offbeat, seems to destabilize any rhythm, and to make it worse, it starts on a rest. It really is a nightmare. For the conductor, the real challenge still lies ahead. In Romania, I was in front of the orchestra. I hit the first downbeat, moved through the opening tumult, approached the sudden change of tempo, and failed to keep the orchestra together. Less is more, I've always been taught. As I approached the slow measures, I didn't subdivide the beat, and bam, the orchestra wasn't together. Fortunately, this was a closed rehearsal. Maestro Balan, the orchestra director, walked up to me. I knew what was coming. Why didn't you subdivide? Why? It was a friendly inquiry with a smile, and yet it included a twinge of rebuke, just enough to make me want to crawl under the podium. The rebuke was well deserved. After all, I was responsible for the poor performance in my attempt to conduct the piece. I had been terrified. I I had been terrified. I seized up, knowing I could fail at this. Eventually, I went out and did so. After talking with Balan about the issue, he released me to try again. This time I sailed through it. In fact, the next week when I conducted Shostakovich and Brahms, I knew if it didn't work, I could do it again. I was still learning and I wasn't perfect. Maestro Balan or Maestro Guter would stop me, pull me aside, suggest a solution, and I would continue. As rehearsals moved ahead, I became more comfortable about trusting my own instincts, learning to stop when the tempo changed, staying out of my score, and watching the players instead of remaining in my head. In fact, the day I crashed the orchestra, other than my own recollection, it was a non incident. To everyone else, it was just a part of the rehearsal process. No one suffered, no one died, and now, no, years later, probably no one else remembers. The failure came down to one issue: fear. Fear sometimes keeps us from doing what we want or need to do. I get nervous before every concert, every speaking event, every rehearsal, every workshop that I lead. It is a normal part of my existence. Knowing that most of the time I get to redo a mistake brings me great comfort. All I need to do is make it to the stage, classroom, sanctuary, rehearsal, or whatever, and start with note number one. From there, it's no longer about me. It's not my problem to deal with anymore. Instead, it is the music that's at the forefront, and I am the servant. I have a job to do. I am here to create music. My internal issues are not just related to music and performance, they reveal themselves anytime I'm experiencing something new. A few weeks ago, the associate minister asked me if I would put some plugs above her desk like we had in our office. So I set out, multi tool in hand, to buzz through the drywall and start the installation of her new plugs. After I cut out the hole, I noticed she had insulation between the walls, and I needed to fish through that insulation to get to the new hole that I had just cut. It took me forever. I sweated profusely. I worried and I thought about how this wasn't going to work, how she'd have to put a picture over it, and how I had cut holes in her pretty office wall. Looking around the church, I found a wire hanger by the choir robes, fished the wire, and went back to the store only once to get a set of fancy steel boxes that, with a little clip, connected to the drywall, creating a new electrical haven for plugs, chargers, and anything else. Fear kept stopping me until I realized I had a job to do. Fear overwhelmed me, stopping my work on the plugs. Fear prevented me from using a divided beat to bring the orchestra successfully through the slow measures of Don Juan. Fear kept me from a whole host of other things until I learned to respect it, accept it, and ignore it. Ultimately, when we give in to fear, we grant power to the inner saboteur. The saboteur wrecks us. It convinces us that since we weren't born with that innate talent, that we can never possess the skill. It turns us away from adventures and ideas. It causes us to listen to the judgmental voice designed to keep us safe. The saboteur does this in the name of protection. It wants us safe at all times. It doesn't want us to fail or get booed or ridiculed. Dang it. The saboteur does this in the name of protection. It wants us to be safe at all times. It doesn't want us to fail or get booed or ridiculed. But the saboteur also bars us from growth. It makes us quit trying to achieve better things for ourselves. It tells us that we're never going to be as good, as talented, as strong, as athletic, as musical, as artistic, or as articulate as them. It protects us from failure by not allowing us to try. The inner saboteur is deadly in its own way. It shields us from life's adventures. It mars us from taking risks. It convinces us not to travel to those untrodden paths. It shows us that others' opinions are more important. All of this is done for self-protection. Don't let the saboteur keep you protected. It's just harming you in the end. Okay, let me go back and fix that one little spot here. I think this is it. Ridicule. Dang it. Let me see. Go back to there. Whoops, there. It wants us safe at all times. I think that's it. The saboteur does this. The saboteur does this. There we go. I like that chapter. Okay, and I got another one over here somewhere. You know, when you think about the inner saboteur, my other one was writing. I had been terrified. I had been terrified. I had been terrified. Okay, let's see if I can find the other spot where I said that. It's here somewhere. To conduct the piece. I had been terrified. Okay. Yeah, one of my big ones was writing, and I was afraid to do that. Eventually, you just got to push your way through it, especially when you feel like that you have something to say. A lot of people, you know, I was at the UPS store the other day, and I was mailing off a couple of books, and the guy there was like, "Oh, you know, I've always wanted to write from my kid, you know, so that my kid would have whatever memories of something like that." And I'm always like, "Just do it. Just do it. Just sit down and do it." Because at the end of the day, we're not going to get any and we're not getting any younger. And as long as we push through that, it's the starting. And it's like that with everything. Gosh, even like mowing the lawn, it's just getting started. Ugh, I don't want to do it. But as soon as I get started, everything's great. And we just have to keep going. And that's the cool thing about it. That's that thing about fear, is that it just stops us. All right. Why not? We'll do one more. Hello again to everybody that's out there. This is note number 31. Okay, I'll hit the record button. Oh, I have to put the mark here. Note number 31. Okay. I just use Audacity, by the way, and, you hit Control B and it'll put a label on there, and then, once you're done with that, then it'll when you turn it into tracks, it'll just turn each one of them into a track, and that's a cool thing. And then there's a little thing that tells you what your, what kinda how to create the files and stuff like that. Because of course, Audacity doesn't create MPA files, it creates AUD files or something like that, or AU3 or something like that. I don't remember what it does. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Alright, here's the next chapter. This is chapter number 31. I know I said I was only gonna do 30, but why not? One more. Note number 31, resist the storm. Ever get mad? At one school, my coworker would come into my office with a forced smile, sit down, and tell me what new silly thing our boss had done. Usually, okay, I got to do that again. Ever get mad? At one school, my coworker would come into my office with a forced smile, sit down, and tell me what new silly thing our boss had done. Usually, this meant a conversation like, your budget has been cut off. Your music scholarships are gone. You have to tour for a week around the USA with 50 kids and have $2,000. How does spring break sound? Finish your doctorate or find another job. It was constant. I would come to school mad about something that had been changed or something out of my control. I'd scowl as I walked into my office, isolated. My friends had families to go home to, spouses and children who walked with them through their life journey. I ate most of my meals alone, comforted in the fact that I had a job. The thing I enjoyed in my life, my career, seemed in constant chaos. The number of students across the campus dwindled. Our retirement was cut. Our health insurance became more and more expensive. And I started questioning. As I walked to school in the mornings, I felt angry, always angry. Fortunately, my best friend's house was in between mine and the office. I would stop in, tell her what new ridiculous thing had happened, and we'd shake our heads. Then she would tell me the latest story about one or both of her granddaughters. Eventually, I forgot why I was mad. Sometimes, though, the ideas would still fester and grow. Then something happened, usually from a boss's new edict, wanting to yell and scream. I pretended that I had a button, the nuclear button. Then I would brush that button off and put it away. It wasn't easy. I didn't always do it, but the number of times I would get frustrated grew less and less the more I stayed away from the nuclear button. Most people had no idea how often I endured yelling from administrators or how difficult it was to maintain composure when faced with regular job threats. One friend told me years later that people usually aren't doing things to you, they're just doing things, and you're getting hurt in the process. I asked God to help me not be so angry all the time. As a result, I learned to start keeping my mouth shut. The storms don't occur often anymore. Here's how I deal with them. One, ask yourself, is this so important to disrupt my serenity? If the answer is no, quit worrying about it. After all, the universe will still unfold exactly the way it should. Two, stay away from negative ideas. For me, this means staying away from the news or Facebook and paying more attention to music. It means not interacting with people who bring me down and spending more time with those that I enjoy. Three, take moments for yourself. Talking to a friend on the phone, going for a walk, visiting a colleague in their office, or even spending a moment outside can help. Four, vent with trusted friends or colleagues. Sometimes it just feels better to express frustration and, in the process, make the other person laugh. Five, keep perspective. Most of us take a job for a goal, a career, or for doing something we love to do. Our jobs are a tool, they do not define us as human beings. Six, enjoy a life outside work. The work life balance takes time to find, but without it, we're doomed. Seven, find the true source of the anger. Often, I have found that my own anger has little to do with the reason in front of me and more to do with a past reminder, drama, or fear that the current situation barely touches. There's a saying, if you spot it, you got it, meaning the things that really bother us touch a nerve about some insecurity or issue that is internal. It seems like I get most enraged when I feel like my rights have been trampled. In my mind, getting what I want and being heard are my rights. Even in the worst possible disparagement and the worst situation, we get to make the choice to react or ignore it. Sometimes we can think about something else or do something that makes us happy. I have a choice to say something or not. Inside, I may be furious. I may look up to God in my head and scream, "Fix this! Are you there?" And in that, I found my new hidden superpower, saying nothing. Turning away is so profound, so charged, so amazing that if we yield to it, even clumsily, it has more of an effect than yelling ever did. If we react, the other person knows exactly my feeling and intent, but when we say nothing, the interpretation falls back on the other person. People judge us by our actions, not our feelings. When something is bothering me and it doesn't have to do with the person in front of me, I try to keep my mouth shut now. It's not their fault. When I don't give in to the temptation to go off on someone, I don't have to apologize later. When I'm hurt by someone, I'm equipped with the even more profound gift, the gift of saying nothing. I'm just not going to say anything there. Oops, I forgot to hit the stop button. Got one little spot there. All right, we got to delete that ending. There, that's gone. And then I got to go back. I think this is it. Usually ever get mad? Oh, here it is. I think it starts here. At one school. Oh, ever get mad? I remember those days. The guy would come in and he'd smile and he'd sit down in the chair, and I think, oh boy, now what? Happened all the time. Okay. All right, let's see. Control B, and we'll do one more note. Number 32. This is a cute one. You know, it's been a while since I've read the book, and it's really fun. It's really a lot of fun. So thanks for sitting in with me to listen to me read. And I hope if you're watching this later, I hope you're enjoying. I hope you do enjoy. And yeah. All right. So this is, by the way, I have to go to number 46. After that, I've recorded the last 4 already. So yeah, I've only got just a handful more to go. Another couple of hours and I'll have it recorded. Hooray. Okay. So this is number 32. And I'll go ahead and hit the recording button. Note number 32. Don't just go. Boldly go. My favorite type of... Oh, I didn't realize I don't have a big M on this one. Shame on me. You know, they're called drop caps. I didn't put a drop cap on this one. Ouch. Okay, well, if you're reading the book, forgive me for not putting a drop cap here. Oh, shoot, I just realized I'm recording all this. Let me start all over. Ha! Let me do that again. Delete. Let's see if it'll go back. No, it doesn't. It goes back all the way to there. Delete. Okay. Let's try this again. Note number 32. Don't just go. Boldly go. My favorite type of travel involves driving. Getting behind the wheel, anticipating each mile, and listening to music all evoke a fantasy of freedom for me. Years ago, I discovered if I wanted to visit places, I needed to quit waiting for others to make plans with me. I was used to flying back and forth when I was in school, so I was accustomed to flying by myself. In the early 2000s, I started taking solo trips. At first, it was a novelty. I started exploring cities: Chicago, Denver, Dallas, Seattle, Portland, San Francisco, LA, or wherever I could get a reasonable fare. Usually, I went to watch the symphony as the main attraction, but also just to get out of town. On those trips, I read, I kept to myself, and I saw museums, the opera, concerts, parks, and nature. What's the greatest thing I learned? Traveling alone almost never meant being alone. At most places, my phone seemed to jingle more than at home. Sometimes I had great conversations with total strangers. If you haven't traveled solo before, here are some tips to prepare. 1. Start by evaluating where you wish to go and why. Is it a curiosity? Is there a desire to visit something spectacular? Is it a writing, spiritual, or work retreat? Is there a workshop at the destination? Find a reason, however minimal, to go. 2. Start simple. Practice taking yourself out to dinner. Take a shopping trip alone. Go to the nearest bookstore to read something. Attend a concert or museum exhibit by yourself. Feel the awkwardness that eventually vanishes as the concert, exhibit, or meal happens. Bring a book to read or a notepad to write during those moments where the alone time is especially poignant. Read columns about other solo travelers and watch YouTube videos about traveling by yourself. 3. Try a mini trip. Bring a camera, a phone, a list of places to visit, and travel to a nearby city for an overnight stay. Combine it, if you wish, with a visit to see relatives before or after. Use that information to know what to pack and bring on a longer trip. 4. Stay in touch. Let others know when you're going and check in regularly. Every time I have left town, I'm amazed at how much more time I spend talking to people from home when I'm not there. 5. Try overseas travel too. Going overseas while requiring a little more planning can be just as fun. Get some guidebooks of the country you'll visit. Rip pages out with maps and keep them in your pocket. Don't speak the language? No problem. Find a way to update your phone to use Google Translate or carry a phrase book. Ask questions of others who've been there. The bottom line is, don't let fear keep you from traveling alone just because you won't have anyone to talk to. Have an itinerary or an agenda: photography, concerts, natural or historical sites, and do it. Never be afraid to go. Did all that one in one shot. Okay, I think that's enough for today. Um, Note number 33 so that I know where I left off. Okay, well, I hope you enjoyed today's reading, and and I look forward to doing some more. It'll probably be next week, I think. Well, next weekend is the eclipse, and so probably won't be doing one next weekend, but who knows? Maybe I'll get to another one soon. Thanks for watching. Have a wonderful day. Take care. Bye, everybody.